There's never been a better time to have SiriusXM. With over 140 channels in your vehicle, your all-access trial includes more than ever before to enjoy online, on your phone, or at home. Create your own ad-free personalized stations powered by Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels and enjoy favorite shows with SiriusXM Video on Demand. What you love is on now.
Hey guys, welcome back to another CMA Connected Lunchtime Learning Session. I'm your host, Ben Wu. And today we've got our good friends at MSC back with us. Now, full disclosure, these guys have been hard at work. They've been busy. They had a great showing at the Canadian Industry Week, Canadian Mobile Audio Industry Week. We recently launched their systems by MSC, but something that they hold near and dear and they always try to communicate, and I know we've had tons of discussions about it, is DSP and simplifying what that means to not only the consumer, but to the dealer. They feel they have, a unique option / response to the ever-growing demand of DSP in a package that is easy to use and that you don't necessarily need a sound engineering degree. And to fortify what I just said, let's go to Chris over at MSC. What's going on, Mr. CVR?
Living the dream, Ben. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. I know that I woke up today and said, I'm going to have Chris on today. And I bet you he's going to confuse me in about 5 minutes about these fancy DSP terms. And I said, that's probably not his goal. He probably has something up his sleeve.
We've always got a little something up the sleeve. We try and simplify this as much. It's a hugely complex topic. There's 1,000,001 things to know to really be really sharp on the topic. But there's also lots of ways that we can help mitigate some of those fears and bring it down to a level that we can all actually enjoy and benefit from what this product can do.
DSP has been certainly an acronym that we've used, and it's come across our desk so many times since we started this whole CMA thing. And the common theme that seems to resonate is that there appears to be two schools of thought. There's the hardcore, maybe pro / competition guys that want tons of menus, tons of options, tons of different, options, I guess is the best way I can say it, to be able to fine tune what it is they're looking for with, parametric EQs and all this type of stuff. But then there's the other group of thought about, can we make this easy so that I don't necessarily have to have a master guru sound engineer technician that works for me as a shop owner, that I could still deliver on great sound, upgraded features, and to be able to, adapt to the crazy technology that's coming in these factory cars. And I have a feeling it's the latter that we're going to be focusing on today.
Yeah, the Audiotec Fischer DSPs have been built to be everything to everybody. The technologies that they're using, the way the software has been engineered, allows you to scale this thing up to be this crazy, over-the-top, fully customizable platform for the tweakiest of tweaky guys out there. But they've also built a lot of little tricks and shortcuts in there to help let us average guys navigate through these things and get cars that are deliverable, that are going to put a smile on people's faces and do it efficiently and repeatably, most importantly. Tuning is a delicate balance between art and science. We've got the science aspect. We've got a great process that allows you to quickly navigate the menus. And if you follow it step by step by step, you're going to have something that puts a smile on the listener's face every single time. And you can do that by simply following the steps, A, B, C, D, all the way through. And in most cases, most vehicles, in a half hour to 40 minutes, anybody can tune the system and have this thing set up and running. The other side is if you're somebody who wants to spend days and days and weeks tweaking and fine-tuning every individual driver, we've got that ability to do all of that stuff as well. So today we wanted to touch a little bit on being able to get the simple process done, get something that's efficient and effective for anybody, that anybody can handle, get it up and running in there, and then as you learn more and as your skills develop and you get used to it more and more, then you can start to explore the crazier sides of things.
Something that is of note, car audio, specifically amplifier manufacturers, if you look at the course of their development and their evolution over time, before it was all about how much power can you get into a small package, right? How much can you output, different type of amplification, circuitry, so on and so forth, quality materials, where it's built, all that. But now, legitimately, if you're going to incorporate DSP, which you kind of need to, especially where everything's going, you also have to be cognizant of how well you perform on developing software, user interface and programming. And Audiotec Fischer, from what I've seen, has created a software that is quite user-friendly.
Yeah, we've got a system that we think is about as intuitive as can possibly be. We have one software interface that covers off every DSP product in our line. So it doesn't matter if you're looking at a simple entry-level product, an OEM integration piece from our Match lineup, all the way up to our flagship Brax DSP. The person getting in there and tuning and setting up these systems is working through the exact same process, the same workflow, the same menus, no matter which piece it is. So that is a huge help to guys, making sure that they don't need to know a half a dozen different DSP softwares and try and remember which one does what, or where's that menu, or how do I get into this feature. All of this stuff is taken care of. We've also got some really cool automated processes that are built into the system as well to help speed up the steps that you're taking in there, so you're quickly able to get where you want to be out of the system. So that's a big step in there, and it also makes sure that there's reduced options for user error or user misunderstanding, whether you're applying changes to certain channels or all channels or anything like that. Really helps keep that kind of stuff under control, so that, like you said, Ben, we want a system that's not requiring an engineering degree. You don't need to be a recording engineer to understand what you're working with and get to the end goal that you're looking for.
All right. Well, I know that we've prepared a step-by-step instructional video that we want to play. It's not too long, but we want to go through it because it really goes through literally step-by-step of how you're going to go about tuning. Like you had mentioned, Chris, it doesn't matter if it's a Brax DSP or a entry-level Match DSP. It's the same process and procedure. And I think what we're about to see is pretty much how simple it can be. So why don't we do that, and we'll come back, and I'm sure I'm going to have a ton of questions for you.
I'm here for you, Ben.
Perfect.
Everybody, thanks for joining us today on Audiotec Fischer PC Tool Explained. Today we're going to be talking about some of the basic setup features that are available through our PC tool when it comes to configuring your DSP product. We're going to be starting off with some of the shortcuts, the little tricks that we use to navigate through the software quickly, getting into some of the more in-depth features that are available in there, getting you through this process to make sure that you can deliver a killer product to your client every single time. When we get into the systems, one of the really unique parts of our system is that we can go through and actually use one single PC tool software for every product that we build. This is going to be everything from our integrated DSPs in the Match line up through our Helix standalone, all the way up into the Brax products. You're going to have the exact same setup process, the same tools available to you across the board to make sure that you've got the end results that you want, so you can put your signature stamp on your client's vehicles and give them the best end results possible. When we first get into our system itself, we're going to connect to our PC tool, connect that to the DSP, and we're going to jump into the software. And that's going to pull up our initial screen. There's one really cool piece that we include on this screen, and that's actually a keyboard map. So you can see all of our shortcut keys. And that's going to let you quickly navigate through the different aspects of the system itself. The different protocols are going to be quickly available. Simple stuff like muting channels, getting into grouping and deselecting channels. You're going to be able to jump through crossover menus, all of that kind of stuff by simple shortcuts on the keyboard, in addition to clicking on the screen. So you can make up your own way and find an effective path through the software to give you those results. Once we're done and got an idea of what we're working with, we simply hit our connect icon in the middle of the screen, and that's going to take us into the PC tool. The first place we're going to go whenever we make these connections is into our I/O screen. That's where we're going to be able to go through and tell the DSP what we're actually accomplishing today, where the inputs are going, and what they're outputting to on the physical side. Today, we're going to be talking about a virtual channel setup. This is a really cool piece of tech built into a handful of our newest pieces, and even more continuing forward. This actually lets you add an additional layer of digital signal processing into the process. So you're going to be able to have groups to help simplify some of our big, complex multi-channel systems. Traditionally, we've had to worry about high, mid, lows, lefts, rights, rears, centers, all of that kind of stuff. What this allows us to do is take those, group them together in a simple process, and allow us to adjust multiple channels in one simple step. So even in those more complex systems, we use the same input-output configuration that we do on some of our basic products. A simple drag and drop selection will allow you to take our physical inputs listed on the left there as the analog settings and drag and drop those in to apply them to each of our virtual channel groups. And it doesn't matter if you're using our analog high-level or low-level inputs, auxiliary inputs, or our digital inputs. The process and the setup that you're going to go through is going to be the exact same thing. So all of these we're dragging and dropping into each of our virtual channels. So virtual A, as an example, is our front left full range channel. B is our front right full range channel, and that continues left and right for the rears. Our center channels, we even have a rear fill channel that we're able to generate through this software as well. So we can take our inputs, drop them to our appropriate virtual outputs, and make sure that we've got our signal flow happening there. From there, we're going to go to the next step into the menus, which takes us to our virtual channels to our output routing. This is where we're actually tying those virtual groups to the physical outputs of the DSP or the amplifier. As we can see, this is still the same type of menu. The same drag and drop process happens here, where you're going to take your virtual A, which is your front left full, and apply that to all of your front left outputs, your high, your mid, your low, whatever might happen to be in there on that case. In this example, we've got a front left high and a front left low. On the right-hand side of this screen, we've got the ability to go through and actually label all of these channels. That's going to do a couple of different things. Number one, it's going to make sure that should you come back to this tune to tweak for the client, and there's another tech that's working on the car in this particular case, you're actually going to be able to know what you're working with instead of guessing how the outputs were all connected. The other important aspect to labeling channels correctly is making sure that things like channel control for rear attenuations and sub-level control, all of those aspects are correctly allocated in the software. So our system knows exactly what you're trying to do with it. So on the right-hand side, the drop-down menus will let you go through and label each output, and you'll be able to see that throughout the rest of the software. Once we've drag and dropped our virtual channels in there, we now have sound playing across the board. We can easily validate that stuff by muting each independent channel and making sure our allocations are correct. The next step that we're going to take after that one is going to go to our outputs screen. So that's going to be where we're going to set up all of our main crossovers. In all of these screens, we've got a few different ways we can do this. We've got our high pass and low pass sliders to let us adjust that to whatever frequency we want. We can even tap on the number and just simply type in the frequency that we would like to use. From there, you can go through and adjust your slopes depending on what crossover characteristic you're using. Those slopes are adjustable anywhere between 6 and 48 dB per octave, depending on the device that you're working with. We've also got a handful of different characteristics from Linkwitz-Riley, Butterworth, Bessel, Chebyshev. We've even got a self-defined crossover slope that you can tailor to your own specific needs in the products that you're using in there. All of those rules apply for both the high pass and the low pass crossover settings, so you can simply set all of that stuff up right there, and you're ready to go. Once we've got our crossover set and all of our speakers are protected, we then are going to go to the next spot, which allows us to go through and adjust our time alignment, our phase corrections, and our polarity of all of our channels. So we've got a menu labeled time that we can click on to go into that screen, and then through that PPT screen, we can make any adjustments to every channel that we want. So same concept where we've got our sliders available to us. We can adjust that in both inches and centimeters. We can mute each independent channel from this screen. We can even invert output polarity from here to ensure that you've got great blending between front channels, rear channels, highs, lows, all of those aspects of your system. One of the nice things that we do is we actually give you 5 different groups to work with. So you can start to link channels together for any adjustments that you're making. So once you've got your front left channel in polarity and in phase time-wise with itself, between the tweeter, the mid-range, and the mid-bass, you can adjust that whole group as one without affecting how they blend together. So we give you 5 different groups to work with on that front. So when you're dividing up the car, makes it really easy to control all of those different aspects that you've got available to it. Once you've got your polarities and your time measurements set correctly, then we can jump to our next screen, which is the virtual screen. In this, we can actually now start to make our adjustments to our groups as a whole without compromising the integration that we've done between time and phase on each individual channel. In this screen, we can even go one step farther and start to see some of our sound effects features that are available. Things like our center channel up mixer, our real center circuit is what that's called, all of our bass augmentation circuits, and then even our clarity and stage expander circuits. In the top left, we actually have a graphic that shows you your signal flow coming through your physical input, through the virtual channel, and which physical outputs it's tied to. So it's easy to navigate and easy to see what you've accomplished so far and ensure that everything is where it needs to be to give you what you're looking for. What we generally like to do is handle our equalization from this screen. That way we don't introduce any odd phasing issues as a result of different equalization circuits or different equalization changes that we've made to the system itself on independent channels. This applies every single change to every single channel in that virtual group to help simplify that process. Once we've got this screen here, we can actually jump into our RTA screen, which will then pop up over top and overlay there. This shows you the channel that you've got selected underneath with the EQ sliders below, and then gives you a visual representation using our MTK1 of the acoustic response inside the vehicle. We even give you a target curve on this graph so you can actually see what your measurements are in the car and where you're trying to get them to and what changes need to be made. One of the most unique and efficient aspects of our software is on this screen, we actually have a button listed as Set EQ. That takes all the changes that it sees after the measurement and automatically spills them into the equalizer bar for you on your selected channels. So now you can go through in one simple button press, adjust all bands of equalization that you wish to change in one quick tap and restart the measurement again. With our systems, we use a spatial average of the microphone measurements. So what we do is we take our microphone and we actually are going to be sweeping it from one side of the ear to the other side of the ear in roughly 3-second sweeps, 2 to 3 seconds back and forth for a total of 20 seconds. After that time is up, we're going to get a visual representation on that graph, and those are the changes that need to be made. That simple Set EQ button takes all those changes, applies them in one shot, and lets you jump on to the next sweep. Generally speaking, we like to do 3 sweeps, about 60 seconds of total EQ time, and you are done. You're going to be left with something that is 95% of the way there without any additional salt and pepper, no changes over and above. Doesn't require an engineering degree to get into this kind of stuff. This is something that has been built specifically to allow anybody, whether it's salesperson, technician, end-use consumer, anybody who wants to try and take this process on, this has been as simplified as physically possible to make sure that you've got the best end results every single time. This can be done from a global EQ standpoint by EQing all channels together at once. This can even be done on an individual channel by channel basis. So if you want to get really in depth and make sure every tweeter and every mid-range and every mid-bass driver is performing to its best, you can do it that way. Or you've got a fast, efficient way to get through this and get great sounding cars in and out of the shop. Once we've got our RTA side of things done, we're going to exit out of that and go into our next screen, which takes us into our sound effects settings. With these are where we like to salt and pepper the system. We've got some really cool toys built into this software, the first of which that comes up is our augmented bass processing. This does some really cool things. There's 2 different settings here. The first one allows you to actually enhance the bass response at low volume. Our system is always monitoring its real-time output. So as you are starting to bring the volume knob up, it can start to bring the bass levels back down to its initial tuned setting. Vice versa, when the client starts to bring the volume down, it adds a little bit of that boost into the bottom end so that their subwoofer's not disappearing even at modest volumes. This is a totally customizable setting on there where you can adjust if you want a specific frequency for the boost or you want the software to figure that out on its own for you. And then you can even go through and tailor how much boost it's going to add into the system. Anywhere between 0 and 9 decibels, really easy to set up. You just turn the volume down and slowly walk that up in 3 dB increments until you get your bass response back where it should be. The rest is totally automated. The other cool feature that we have in this menu is our sub expander. What sub expander does is actually add some low frequency harmonic information to help give those smaller subwoofers and factory subwoofers that extra energy to make them sound bigger and meaner than they have any right to. That's a simple on-off setting, really easy to turn it on, take a listen to it, pick the option that's going to be best in your particular application. Once we've got our bass settings done, we're going to jump into the second screen that pops up here, which is our center channel stuff. Real center is a huge, huge feature that's built into all of our ACO processors. This actually allows you to take both left and right information, create a center channel, but does not play a mono signal through there. It only plays what is perfectly balanced between both the left and the right channels. So what you're left with is a true center channel that is only playing what is truly in the center of the soundstage. Simple on and off setting on this. Turn it on if you've got a center channel. If you don't have a center channel, obviously not something you need to worry about. One of the other cool settings that's built into this center channel processing is your clarity expander. Since most of the vehicles that we're dealing with these days are using small 2-3 inch mid-range drivers, they're not using a tweeter up there, more of a wideband type concept that can sometimes miss that extra little sparkle up in the high frequency range. Our clarity expander circuit allows us to add in some of that ultra high frequency harmonics to give you a little bit more of that tweeter type sound that you might be missing at a lot of these applications. So again, this is another customizable setting where you can turn it on and off. You have the ability to adjust how intense that effect is, so a really nice adjustment that you can make to give that extra little sizzle that you need in there in a lot of cases. Once you've got your center channel dialed in, we jump to the third screen that we see, which is going to be our stereo separation products. This is going to allow you to do one of two different things again. We see our clarity expander just like the center channel offered, where you can go through and add that extra little sizzle in those vehicles that are using those wideband type speakers up on the top of the dash. The other cool feature that's available here, a lot of clients and dealers have noticed that when we're using center channel based systems, that soundstage can start to pull into the middle a little bit more than we generally like. If you've got a vehicle that you're building that's exhibiting those, we can take that expander, that stage expander feature, turn it on and adjust the intensity of it. What that's going to do is actually allow us to change some of the phasing information and inject it in there to help create a broader soundstage and help bring that width back out and expand that soundstage without allowing things to cave into the middle on us. That's also an adjustable setting where we can take the intensity, turn it up and down as you'd like. Some clients absolutely love that feature when they're looking for that surround sound type experience. And then you've got the ability, of course, to turn it off for the audiophile looking for something as true to the recording as possible. So with those, we've got a really cool range of features and toys available to the system to let you navigate through the software quickly and efficiently to give you consistent end results that don't require an engineering degree to set up. And most importantly, you're getting the exact same workflow experience across every product that we sell. So it doesn't matter if you're working with a simple 4-channel DSP all the way up until our DSP Ultras or V12s with a 14-channel DSP built into it. This is the kind of process that you're going to get to experience and deliver out things that are just absolutely awesome time after time.
All right. So some really cool button features, I'll call them, because basically it is an on-off switch on all these, between the center's channel and the bass enhancement and all that type of stuff. My question, I guess my initial question I have for you, Chris, is how much time can one I know this is a broad question because it depends on how many channels and stuff. But if we talk in as far as ratio of time, if a standard full-out DSP system took X amount of time to set up, how much time can you save going through this process?
So most commonly for us, we tune our vehicles in rows. So when we're going through that EQ process, once the time alignment is set and all of that stuff is done, at the EQ stage, we do front, left, right as one section. Then we do the rears, D-pillar if there's a D-pillar speaker in an SUV or something like that. Center channel always gets done by itself. and then we blend the sub in last. So on a typical system where we've got a front, rear, center sub kind of a configuration, that process, once you know the software, is typically 30 to 40 minutes on average.
Oh, really?
So it gets really quick. I mean, talk to lots of dealers out there who have no problem spending 2, 3, 4 hours trying to get through a car and get it where they want to and where they're comfortable with. So massive time savings available to get the end results you're looking for and keeping shop efficiencies up. I also have lots of dealers out there that will still spend a half day or better putting a car together when they're doing individual channels and each tweeter and each driver all by itself. Obviously, the more channels you have, the more that process scales up. But even just the little things like that set EQ button that spills those measurements straight into it, as opposed to making adjustments to 10 or 15 bands at a time, it's one click and off you go to restart again. So from an efficiency standpoint, I don't think there's really any question that the Audiotec Fischer stuff has got that side of things dialed for you.
So from a physical perspective, is this a one-person tune? Like, are you sitting in the front seat, microphone, laptop, or do I still need to go back to the amp and like walk that process?
So with this system, our tuning kit, the MTK1 microphone from Helix, comes with a USB stick that has your pink noise and all that kind of stuff on it. So you can quickly plug that into the radio. You can also use it off the phone if that's an easier process for you. But once you've got that playing through, your laptop plugs straight into the DSP, microphone plugs straight into the laptop, RTA is in the laptop. So you're not working with an extra test bench, you're not working with a bunch of extra screens or displays. One person right there, all of your incoming information from RTA response and all that kind of stuff is in front of you. All the adjustments that you're going to make is right there in front of you. So there's no bouncing around the cars. There's no...
Never got to go to the back with a screwdriver.
Correct. Yeah, those days are behind us, fortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, no RTAs up on the bench or anything like that. So,
and I would imagine it doesn't take a huge, like, brand new MacBook Pro to do this, right?
No, we've got a huge chunk of our dealers are using just simple Chromebooks. A lot of them, our software is touchscreen compatible. So if you're using a 2-in-1 type of a system, Microsoft Surface will do the job for you. But yeah, any basic PC will keep everything up and running and handle this for you. It's not a big investment by any means. Laptop.
Is there anything else? Yeah, is there anything else, like as far as an investment for the tuning portion? What do I need to do as a shop to invest in?
So there's a handful of things. We've got a tuning kit that we work with our dealer base on that's got a 2-in-1 laptop, so you can actually set it up as a tablet design if you want to, but that handles all the actual processing aspects. Our microphone comes in our kit as well, so you've got everything you need on that side. We use a Bosch laser measurement tool, little laser device for measuring speaker distances, so you can actually go right from the driver's headrest to each individual speaker.
Okay, yeah.
Exactly. We try and avoid things like the old tape measure. So many of these new cars with leather dashes and the soft plastics and vinyls and stuff like that, that metal tip on the end can scratch things and mark stuff up. So we always try and avoid that in the concept of taking care of vehicles. So the little laser tool works quickly, it's efficient, it's fast, it's easy, gives you great readouts. You plunk that into the information. So that's the first tool, is that little laser measurement device that we use, the microphone for the EQ side of things, and the always important polarity testers. Before you can get into any of those processes that we just went through, we need to make sure that our drivers are actually firing at the same time in the same direction. Otherwise, everything else goes out the window. So polarity tester is hugely important, making sure that stuff is correct as step one. The little laser tool, the MTK1 microphone kit, and the laptop, and you're there. It's not a whole bunch of stuff. It doesn't take up drawers and drawers of tool space, none of that stuff. So
yeah, and this is from what I hear, this is not a huge ticket kind of investment.
Nope, the microphone's pretty reasonable. Like I said, we actually offer a tuning kit available to our dealers. It comes in this beautiful Pelican case that we have custom made for them. Comes with all those tools in the box, ready to go, including the laptop. So that's something that all of our dealers have access to through either us here in the Canadian office or the team at the America office down in Mesa, Arizona. So that's something that can be set up and rigged up and ready to go.
I'm going to go ahead and put those digits up. You did mention your American viewers as well as our Canadian viewers. MSC operating on both sides of the border, so make sure you contact the right people. But I'm sure if you took the wrong number, I'm sure they'll be able to still help you out.
We're all one big happy family. We're just MSC. That's all we are. So no matter who you feel like calling, we're always happy to help any of our dealer partners, U.S. or Canadian side of the border. So call who you know, and they'll be more than happy to help guide with anything you may need or any questions you have on what's required for the tooling. We all tune these things on a regular basis, so we know our software is inside and out. So even to bounce ideas of your process versus our process and try and find those efficient ways through it all, we're always happy to be a part of it.
A couple other questions I have for you. The interface between the amplifiers and the laptop or tablet, that is a USB, Bluetooth. How does that work?
So we've got a couple options. The first is USB, simple micro USB, or sorry, mini USB plug in on the unit itself. We always typically recommend using a powered USB extension if you're sitting up in the front of the car, just so that you don't have any communication loss over those distances. But you can pick those up for 15, 20 bucks. They're pretty reasonable, pretty minor, and does come in our kit as well. We also have a device called Wi-Fi control that lets us connect via Wi-Fi from your laptop to our devices. So it's a little add-on plug, connects to the director port on the side of the box, and lets you then wirelessly connect to the unit itself. And then you don't need that USB extension to run from front to back. You just hook up power ground, plug it in, and that's something that can be left in the vehicle permanently. Really cool side of that little device is it actually, with the ACO processor, some of our newer pieces, lets you act as a director for control. So you can access tuning presets, sub-level control, master volume, source selection, all of that kind of stuff right through a phone as well. So we've got an app available for iOS and Android that now gives you more extensive control using that little Wi-Fi control dongle plugged in as well. So a cool little toy in there that can simplify the tuning process and give your clients some extra capabilities along the way with the right pieces.
That's a great option if it's in a place that, you know, might not be accessible after the fact as much.
Yep.
But also probably a good tool to have in the shop. You know, easy access. Just plug it in and
yeah, exactly. Doug down in our US office actually sourced all the little connectors, so he's able to basically tee it in line between the power and ground connectors. So it's a really quick addition to plug in place in there. It powers up. You sit down wherever you need to get the tuning side of things done, and out it comes. So it's a readily available piece that he can play around with when he's testing new equipment and playing around in his cars and anything like that. You can quickly access that info.
Okay, from a dealer perspective, okay, you got my attention. I'm interested. I feel a little bit more confident that I can get into some DSP with these type of products. What is there as far as support?
So with any of this kind of stuff, we've got our YouTube channel that's got a couple of walkthroughs and some of that kind of information. Some of the stuff from Industry Week will be found there. Most importantly, we still like one-on-one. We like hand-to-hand. So we've got our team is always out on the road and up close and personal, offering these kinds of trainings and getting more in depth on the stuff that we just saw there. I mean, that was 20 minutes or so of a quick overview of a huge process or set of capabilities, I should say. So there's always a little bit more in depth and more details. You know, we've got the ability to get into all pass filters and de-equalization and all that kind of stuff. There's a million and one things that we didn't get to cover off today. So being up close and personal is always our first choice, but the Zoom calls, Team Viewer, which allows us to actually tie right in with you while you're actually active in the vehicle itself. That's the kind of stuff that we like to do. And one-on-one is something that's a huge part of the MSC way of doing things. Give that tailored experience and answer your questions, not just some questions, and hope some overlap with what you need to know about this thing. So whether it's cell phones, office numbers, emails, all that kind of stuff, we're always ready to help out any of our dealer partners and whenever we can.
All right. I think we covered pretty much all the technical stuff that I know that we want to, you know, check off. Now I'm going to have some fun with you for the last few minutes.
All right, let's play.
Share with us some of the cool feedback you've had from dealers who, you know, plugged into this for the first time and circled back with you and said, hey.
The biggest thing, the biggest batch of feedback that we get is all about the auto setting up of that EQ side of things. That integrated RTA that gets the old big box off the bench or off the hood of the car, or running multiple screens, you know, trying to have a laptop-based RTA and the tuning software, all of that kind of stuff has been such a simplifying little step in there, being able to have all that information in one place, make all your changes, see in real time what's happening. And like I said, those sweeps that we do from one ear to the other with that microphone coming back and forth for 20 seconds, you do that 3 times and you've got something that is absolutely spot on your target curve. You know, you're typically inside of a half a dB from that whole thing in 60 seconds. So it's absolutely amazing how fast that is. It's cool because it will continue to evolve. One thing that we see a lot of when you're EQing a car is when you change one frequency, it's going to have an impact on some of the other frequencies around it. So where you may be cutting in one spot, it might be cutting a little bit beside it. So our system actually is, because it's watching the whole bandwidth, is making those changes on the fly. So it can be cutting and boosting and making those subtle changes side by side simultaneously. So taking all of that kind of stuff and putting that into one click and one step is mind-blowingly fast and easy to do.
I want you to share with us a memorable experience since you've been working with this equipment and this platform that kind of left you with brains all over the place.
The biggest thing was once I figured out the process, coming into any new software, there's always a learning curve to it. You got to learn where the buttons are and get through it. But when my own experiences went from tuning cars in 2 to 3 hours, and then you'd go tune another car in a couple hours and it would sound different. You'd never get the same end results because I was doing what a lot of guys do of trying to make a certain song sound the way I was used to, and it just didn't work. I mean, it takes a special set of ears that know exactly what they're looking for in a small handful of songs to pull that trick off, and the vast majority of us can't do it. What this process did was not only gave me consistent results time after time after time, it sped the process up at the same time. Like I said, those used to be 2 or 3 hour processes, and I was still never really happy at the end of the day. And if something ever happened where the client showed his car to a friend who said, yeah, I want that, they'd come in and we'd build a similar system, albeit tweaked for a different car, but you'd end up with 2 projects that sound different. Why doesn't mine sound like his, or vice versa? And then you'd have to try and figure out what was going on with that. So having all of this stuff in one place, having a process that works on everything from standalone DSP to amplified DSP, factory speakers, aftermarket speakers, factory radios, I don't have to worry about any of it because this process has been dialed in a way that it accommodates all of those different aspects of the system and gives me the end results I want, while at the same time giving me the same results. This process puts me in the same place time after time, and then does it in a fraction of what we used to do that stuff. Like I said, most of the cars we're tuning, even when we're looking at things like our V12 with 14 channels of DSP being tuned with, active 2-way front, center channel, active 3-way front door speakers, rears, D-pillars, subwoofer on top of that. Most of those cars are happening in less than an hour. And that's even for guys that are new to the products and new to tuning in general. That process has become that rock solid and that consistent. So it's pretty special to be able to do that kind of stuff. And that was always the eye-opening thing for me, is we went from this big process, this big project, inconsistent results, to fast, efficient. We know exactly what we're delivering every time and taking all the guesswork out of it. So
simplicity, efficiency, and repeatability.
Those are the 3 keys to the whole thing.
Very, very cool. And because this is the same platform for all the product range, whether it's Match, Helix, or even Brax, you learn it once.
Correct. If you know this process like the back of your hand, any Audiotec Fischer product, any project, doesn't matter how big it is, you're going to be able to get through it step by step by step. There might be, if you're doing like we do, where you tune in rows and you've got front and rear, no center, and then you blend a sub, gets a little bit quicker. But if we go to that V12, tuning all 14 channels of it, process gets a little bit longer, but the steps are exactly the same and the end results are exactly the same. So there's no need to fear big projects and big system designs like that, because you're going to go through the same steps every time and get you where you want to be.
I know that this particular session, we're talking only about the DSP tools, but let's not forget, and I think we need to mention this, the line has a compact footprint. So on top of being more efficient, you're not taking up a lot of space. You're talking about various models with multi-channel of amplification, whether it's a 4, a 6, an 8, a 12. A lot of these cases, it's a one-box solution.
Correct.
With the DSP built in. So I think all that adds to that whole Audiotec Fischer offering, which makes it very unique and attractive from where I'm sitting.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. So many of these cars that we're getting into, multi-channel systems, are common. It's not a surprise to dive into a car and have 9 or 10 factory channels in there. That's becoming pretty average, even in simple cars. You look at Mazda and Subaru and stuff like that with their premium audio offerings in there. These are not good old day aftermarket car stereos. You've got to be ready to deal with these things, and having systems that can give you the number of channels to integrate into these things, give you the process to get the correct signals off those factory systems, set them up the way you want to, while being used in a way that's not taking up entire trunks. I mean, we all know that we need these cars for our day-to-day lives. We still got to clear golf bags and hockey bags and groceries, and life still has to fit in these cars. We always need to make sure that we're appeasing those aspects of it. So having small one-box efficient solutions that deliver sound like this has just got to be the way of the future if we're going to keep kicking ass at this stuff.
Very, very cool. I think we'll leave it on that point right there.
Awesome,
guys, thanks so much, Chris. Always so knowledgeable. Guys, if you're interested in what you're hearing here, what you're learning here, DSP Simplified is the best way I can explain it. Check it out. Digits are on the bottom. Reach out to MSC, reach out to Chris, the entire team. You got digits for both the American market and the Canadian market, of course. And just to be clear, these boys are Canadian. If you're watching this from the States, they're in Calgary. So yes, they're ours, just so you know. And that's it. Chris, I can't thank you enough for being on with us once again. And I look forward to, every time I look forward to what you bring.
Thanks a lot, Ben. Always a pleasure to be here. And I can't wait for the next one. All
right. Sounds good. Take care. Well, there you have it, guys. Another cool lunchtime learning session with Chris Van Rye over at MSC, talking about the Audiotec Fischer DSP tools. Thanks for tuning in for this lunch hour learning session. We got another one Friday coming your way, so make sure you tune in again. Of course, I always have to remind you, lots of great content that came out of Canadian Mobile Audio Industry Week, all available on demand. Just head over to our website, CanadianMobileAudio.com. Click on Industry Week, and you can sort through, listen to this, over 100 hours of mobile electronics content. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Thanks so much for joining us. Until next time, we connect.